The legendary hero Odysseus, who had emerged victorious from the Second Trojan War and was returning to his homeland, at some point on his long journey realized that his ship would soon pass in front of the island where the magnificent sirens lived. Sirens were famous for singing enchantingly beautiful songs that would blow the minds of the sailors. But the problem was that, because the sailors were unable to resist the lure of the sirens, the ship would crash into the rocks while trying to reach them. Odysseus also felt an unrestricted urge to listen to these legendary songs. But he did not want to cause himself and his crew to die, so he made a plan. He knew he could not resist the urge to drive his ship towards the cliffs of the island when he heard the music. The problem was not the current rational Odysseus, but the future Odysseus. An out of his mind Odysseus whose rationality would be gone as soon as he hears the music. He ordered his men to tie him firmly to the mast. They themselves would also stuff their ears with beeswax, so that they would not hear the sirens singing. As they steered the ship, they had taken firm orders to ignore all of Odysseus's pleading, shouting, and fluttering. Before I go back to the story, I want to share with you a very big thing I noticed. With Odysseus getting himself hooked on those open seas, and you watching this video right now is the result of the same mechanism, to decide. Every effect of every living thing on the universe is the result of a decision it makes. So, how do we decide? Making a decision can be conscious and unconscious. While you can recognize and observe the conscious decision-making process, unconscious decisions are deeper. However, the same mechanism works in both. Let's take a closer look at what goes on behind the scenes in the decision-making process. Suppose you're standing in front of a grocery store and trying to decide between two fruits you love equally, apple and pear. You don't seem to be doing much from the outside. All you do is stand there and flick your eyes between the two options. But even such a simple choice was more than enough to start an electrical storm in your brain. A neuron alone does not make a significant effect, but each neuron is connected with thousands of other neurons, and they are connected to thousands of others, and this relationship continues enormously. Meanwhile, all neurons release chemicals that stimulate each other. This group represents the apple. These neurons alone don't really have anything to do with apples. When you come across the rayon, these neurons also begin to interact with each other and mean apple for your brain, just like an online meeting. Of course, the apple group is not alone in this party. The competing probability peer is also represented by the other group in this order. These two groups are trying to gain advantage by strengthening themselves and suppressing the other. The fight continues until one side wins, and the winning side determines what your next action will be. The brain is constantly fed by the conflicts of such groups. After choosing either apple or pear, we find ourselves in a new conflict. Should I eat it all? Should I peel and eat? The way this fruit lands on your stomach depends on how the conflict inside will end. During these conflicts, we can argue with ourselves, swear at ourselves, or deceive ourselves. But who is exactly talking to who? All of the voices are actually you, but where different parts speak. To better understand the systems in the brain, let's consider a thought experiment known as the wagon impasse. A train is running along the tracks out of control. A little further, 4 people are tied to the rails. You are there too, and you immediately realize that they will all die if the wagon crashes. But then you realize that there is also a handle nearby that can steer the carriage onto another rail. But wait a minute, there is also a person on that rail. So if you pull the handle, a person will die. If you don't, 4 people will die. Would you pull the handle? Almost all of the people who are asked what to do in this scenario say they will pull the arm. After all, it's better for one person to die than 4, right? Let's consider another scenario. The same train comes to kill the same four people. This time, however, you're on a bridge. You have big, broad-shouldered men with you. You realize that if you push the man, it will fall directly onto the rail and his body weight will be enough to stop the wagon and save four people. Would you push the man? Under these conditions, almost no one is attempting to push the man down. But why? The answers given to this question are generally in the direction of this would be murder, but this would be very wrong. Let's stop here for a while. Aren't you asked to think about the same equation in both cases? The choice to sacrifice one life for four lives? Then why are the results in the second scenario different? The first scenario is just a math problem for the brain, and the deadlock in the scenario engaged the brain regions involved into solving logic questions. The second scenario requires you to be physically interact with the man and push him to death, which requires other networks to be called onto duty. These are brain areas related to emotions. In the first scenario, our rational networks tell us that one death is preferable to four deaths, whereas in the second scenario, our emotions say that it is wrong to kill a man. The situation can completely change the result. This equation actually sheds light on situations we encounter in the real world. Let's think of today's wars. This can be compared to the act of pulling the lever rather than pushing the man down from the top of the tank. When a button is pressed to launch a missile, only logic networks are engaged. A political expert then said that the button pressed to launch a nuclear missile should be placed on the chest of president's best friend. Thus, to activate a nuclear weapon, the president would have to tear his best friend apart. Adding emotional networks to the decision process will prevent us from acting like robots when making such life or death decisions. In order to decide on an option, the brain and body must be in close communication. Although the brain looks like top controller, it actually provides a summary of the signals from the body, what is happening and what can be done about them. While our brains were not yet developed enough to climb top of the food chain, it was the decisions we made with these signals that kept us alive. In the apple and pear struggle, the main factor that enabled one of the groups to win was these signals from the body. Let's stand in front of a chocolate section in the same market. Here are many details such as calories, price, packaging, taste, etc. If you are a robot, you will stand all day in front of the shelf to make a decision. It is a summary you need to decide on one. Your body provides this summary. When you take into account your budget, your hands may sweat. Remembering the last time you ate the hazelnut chocolate may cause your mouth to become watery, and noticing the excessive caramel content in other chocolate can cause your intestines to contract. You simulate your experiences with one first and then the other. After all, you don't just read the data on the chocolate packages, you feel this data. Each choice is stamped with a signature of the body. This also helps you in making decisions. Every decision takes into account momentary situations as well as past experiences of the body. Instant situations are situations such as budget shortage. But there is one more part of the decision file: predictions for the future. Every creature in the animal kingdom is set to seek rewards. The reward is essentially meeting the needs of the body. When your body starts losing water, the reward is water. When your energy stores begin to run out, the reward is food. Because water and food are biological needs, they are primary rewards. But human behavior is mostly driven by secondary rewards that anticipate primary rewards. When we take a look at humans, even the feeling of being valued in the society they live in can be rewarding. Also, unlike animals, these rewards can be even precede our biological needs. For example, have you seen a lion going on a hunger strike, pushing aside his primary need? There is a problem that arises with all awards, whether basic or abstract. Almost all of the decisions we make involve choices that will be rewarded at a later time. People go to school for years to get a diploma that they find valuable in the future, and they may work like slaves without any joy, hoping for future promotion. Consider a scenario like this. I have some free time and I'm trying to decide what to do. I'd better go to my college lecture, but I am also aware that I have to edit the video for this week. I also want to go to amusement park with my girlfriend and spend some time with her. How will I decide on these options? If I went through all of these and then went back in time and compared them all, I would have made a much easier decision, right? But unfortunately, I cannot travel in time. Or can I? I will answer this question in the next video. In the meantime, when you're among such options, you can share with me what kind of a decision-making process you have gone through in the comment section. You can subscribe and wait for my next video to know exactly how we make decisions. If you click the bell, you will be notified immediately. Thanks for watching this far. Don't miss out on the rest.